Will we give the people 1 to more additional minutes to join the meeting? I will drop you the link to the meeting minutes into the chat. Yet there is not so much to discuss, except our tech proposal, which is a lot, I need to say. Feel free to add yourself at the attendees list. You can also request access to the document if you want to. Makes the things more easier. Otherwise, I can just also accept your comments. It's not a problem.
Hi, hello everybody. I wanted to introduce myself very quickly. I'm Yassine, I'm a cloud solution architect for Microsoft, also PM for Azure Kubernetes Service. So I'm going to be joining you regarding basically an exchange between you and us. And I will be representing the AKS team. I'm sorry, really sorry, I cannot put the camera today, but next week.
Awesome to have you, Yassine.
Cool, thank you.
Probably have a volunteer for a note taker, and request previously was that we rotated hosts. Scott did last week. I've done one, Max has done several. Do we have someone else who wishes to host?
I can host this meeting if nobody else likes to. I can pull up. Okay, awesome. I will pull up the meeting notes quickly. And I'm not sure, I don't have write access to the meeting notes. I had them once, not anymore, I don't know. Okay, I will share my screen. Awesome. I think we're already recording the session, so this is already working. Awesome. Let's get started. Yeah, awesome to have everyone here. I think this meeting, we will probably go through the proposal, the HackMD proposal. But first, let's take a look at the meeting notes. Let me zoom in a bit for everyone. Are there any new attendees for the first time? We just had one from Microsoft. Is there anybody else who wants to introduce yourself to us, to the team?
Hi, this is Ala Yusuf. I'm from IBM Research. It's the first time I'm joining this meeting, so happy to be with everyone here and talk about these important topics.
Awesome, good to have you.
Hello, this is Mac. I'm from IBM System, so I'm from the China lab. So I'm now working on sustainability optimization for the full stack computing. So very glad to join this work group.
Cool.
This is Liu Gao. This is also my first time joining this meeting. I'm from Red Hat, China. I was invited by Huamin Chen, which is my colleague in Red Hat office of CTO. Nice to be with you.
Good to have you.
This is Jiaji from China, and I'm working for Red Hat. And Steve and Huamin is my colleague, so I'm very interested in this project. And this is my first time to join. So glad to meet everyone here.
And this is my first time at this meeting. I'm Tony. I'm from Intel. I work in the office of the CTO software.
Awesome.
This is Frederick Kautz. I've been involved with CNCF related things for quite a while now, and I'm happy to see there's a sustainability user group. I've known about it and been watching for a while, and I had a couple conversations on Slack a while ago, but glad to be able to make one of the calls.
Awesome. A lot of new folks joining this meeting. And I also heard we are quite distributed. So having folks from China, from the US, Europe, everywhere. That's awesome. Is there anybody else?
Hi, this is José. I'm from Ghent University in Belgium, and I've been working on scheduling and auto-scaling, mainly for Kubernetes, and I'm glad to join this working group as well. Thanks.
All right. So I think let's get started with the open discussion. We have, looking at the agenda, quite a few topics. So I think we have to get going. Aaron, are you with us?
You're in the wrong section.
I think you need to go up a little bit to the more to the Wednesday 3rd of August meeting minutes, which is more up.
Ah, whoops, I'm sorry.
There we are.
Okay, this was from the last one. Okay, then looks like the agenda is just the proposal. So let's go to the proposal.
I have a little more than the proposal, yeah. The emails going back and forth this week were very attacky. I didn't appreciate it. The advantage of having all these parties there is we can all work together going forward and getting this proposal to represent the full community of people who want to be engaged. So I have a few things. Number one is we probably want to do more than this working meeting, but another working meeting. We have people interested from China as well. And we also, any large edits, I noticed there was a large edit on there this morning. Those should be handled through the working meetings and submitted either as a PR to the GitHub is my request. If someone else would just, it doesn't find it this way, we should discuss, or it should be added as a side comment. The edit that was added this morning was very large and changed the scope of what we should be working on, and I don't think it was agreed on. So we need to be aware that there are people actively working on this doc. I did comment it out, and I made it clear that we need to discuss any of these edits.
Yeah, I think one feature from Google Docs is quite nice, that we can add something in the notes as a recommendation. So this feature is a bit lacking on HackMD. Maybe there's something, some feature or some plugin or something which we can use. But I agree. I think currently it's quite difficult to propose changes. With the comment section, it's possible, but yeah.
People have been using the comments section. Kara's used it. I have one for goals right now. Frederick's used it. Like, we have a bunch of outstanding comments currently that we need to go through. I would like to discuss how many more working meetings and when we want to submit this as well as part of this meeting. We don't necessarily have to complete this here. We can do what we can get done. But
yeah, I think there, especially in the beginning, in the forming phase, there's need to have more meetings than just every 2 weeks. So maybe we could have every week a meeting, and then to include everyone around the globe, have one in the like an offset, so that we cover all time zones. Or do you think it's needed to have even more than every week a meeting?
yeah, I don't think we lay out in the stock meetings. Maybe I'm wrong, but the other tab docs I've read didn't have a meeting cadence. Do you think that's necessary? Does anyone else know more? Because I agree that we should do weekly after the tag is formed, but I don't know. As far as getting this done, we've been doing off meetings.
Yes. Yeah, so we had on Monday and Tuesday 2 meetings to discuss comments on this proposal, and I think we could maybe continue with that until we have the proposal set up. And so, like, in addition to the weekly meeting, to get basically enough room for discussions and everything.
Yeah, I agree with that, because that's any working group, often you have one off just so you can accelerate the work. Yep.
Okay, awesome. So was there anything else, or should we get started with the comments?
We have Dims here. I don't know if he wants to speak at all, or if anyone else from CNCF wants to speak at this time.
I'm Arlo. I was just listening in. I think Erin gave you all some to-do items last time, and I was just making sure that, I come and say hi to all of you and make sure that you're all comfortable working with each other. And, for the meetings, please feel free to have as many meetings as needed, just making sure that you cover the different sets of people who have shown up today. So that's the problem with a lot of meetings, is like not everybody will be able to make it to this meetings. So making sure that you have something where you can collaborate better. Like you were pointing out the issues that you had just now, which is like, how do we update the HackMD, right? So yeah, just set some patterns of behavior that is applicable to all the folks, and then folks can follow that pattern to make edits to the document, so that nobody is surprised, right? Just make sure that you over communicate. That's the only other thing that I can add there. So there is no people shouldn't feel that they are out of the loop, so to say, and then it becomes like, oh, we are not meeting, we are meeting only once in 2 weeks. I thought this was a okay thing to do, but then somebody else felt that, okay, that was not an okay thing to do. So just set up some ground rules for this HackMD. If you want to keep it here or move to Google Docs, or even like the best way to do this we have seen so far is just throw it in GitHub, have a few editors who can edit the proposal, and everybody else submits comments. That's probably a best way to do it, but I'm not going to force that on you all. Just do the right thing, and make sure that everybody knows the ground rules for making updates. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you. So to address the GitHub thing, we do have this in GitHub, so if people want to submit PRs, it's easy for them to do so. I am syncing this periodically to make sure that they are updated and up to date. If you look within this doc, you see the section that's commented out. That's how we've been handling large scale things that we wanted reviewed before we added. And then comments are kind of personal. This is what I think is added, etc. Also comments, people put their names in. Go ahead, Leo.
Maybe one thing that we could do is that just to add like a comment like this. So it should wait, I cannot write something. So it should be clear. Maybe this could help. So everything which is a comment, or I mean it's a quote in Markdown, but maybe we could use this form to submit bigger ideas, because if it's commented out, maybe it's not that easy. I mean, you cannot comment on certain parts, right? You cannot add a comment here. Maybe this could help.
Yeah, that's why I have the comment in line with my name, for instance, below. So
I mean, yeah, this could also work. Okay, should we move to this one? Should we move up and down? Is there any comment which is very important?
Frederick has his hands up.
Sorry, Frederick.
Yeah. One of the things that I would strongly recommend is because HackMD is fantastic for like the initial flurry of edits and getting things into the document. Once you get to a point where the document is aiming more towards minor changes, or maybe not minor, but they're limited in scope, then my recommendation would be to move the whole thing. Where right now the canonical one is HackMD, make the canonical one live on GitHub, and then go through the PR review process at that point for future changes. And when you make that transition is dependent on how comfortable the whole group is. I've seen some patterns where they make that transition when they're happy with the final version and they say all future versions should go through that process. And I've seen some where once they hit their draft version that they want to start distributing and getting comments from, to start facilitating, because at that point it becomes an asynchronous process, and which makes it easier for people in all different time zones to contribute, but also helps foster communication over time. So right now we're still in that close contact, like let's get the document created, but I would definitely recommend moving over to such an area. And the second one, I wanted to put a short comment on is please be very careful with the wording. Like I'll be very direct with what I'm going to say. Like I took a look at some of the emails that were sent, and I thought, is this really something that I want to join in on when there's this much anger and upsetness going on that's being put onto the email list? And so these type of conversations, like, please do keep them professional, because we will drive other people away from the group, and we will end up losing out on really great people if we're not careful with how we engage.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with that. I think the first thing what you said is quite a good idea, quite a good point, that we have this like as for the formation basically of documents. HackMD could be a good tool, but as I think we said multiple times, at the end we use GitHub, and GitHub is the source of truth, and using PRs and the regular workflow, we can then at some point move over and use only the normal PR workflow. I think the question is like when this happens, probably when this document, the first version is set up. But yeah, I think there needs to be also a discussion at some point about tooling in general. So maybe we can take notes and then, I don't know, bring this to the discussion later. And do you have any comments on that?
I would say let's not try to solve things that we don't have yet. We're focused on getting this document out. So let's agree on the right process for this document, as Frederick has already said. He suggested at least. Let's agree on that before we go into the content. What are we going to do? Are we going to use HackMD going forward with comments? Is everyone okay with that? I don't want to be going back and forth. Let's just make a decision.
I think I'm good with that, because it's working quite fine.
But I was already seeing a thumb. Okay for me. Thank you.
Okay, and yeah, and there was a comment which Varan put, which makes sense. Maybe after this meeting, maybe let's just put it on GitHub. We can decide at the end, but so let's for now just say, okay, we're going to use HackMD, and at the end of this meeting, let's spend 5 minutes deciding whether or not we think we still need enough edits that we can use HackMD going forward short term. Otherwise, we can move it to GitHub. But I guess we can decide that at the end. I just want a decision so it's clear.
I would also like us to agree on a timeline, because if we can agree on a timeline, we can say we HackMD until this date, right? Any last changes until this date, and then we submit as a community on this date. This way we have a timeline, and we can hopefully make the mid-August hand-wavy deadline so that we can actually get into the KubeCon panel stuff this year for North America.
Yeah, I think mid-August would be a good deadline.
Yeah, so I'd ask for suggestions on when we stop the HackMD. Because I think we're fairly there, excluding this large edit this morning. So that probably needs another working meeting to discuss. I know a couple of people just came back from vacation, so I'd like them to actually join in on those working meetings to make sure that they're represented. I know there's comments that are unaddressed, so I'd like those taken care of, and then maybe we choose a day to finalize.
Okay, so let's decide at the end. Let's see how far we get. Maybe we get through it.
Sounds good. Awesome. Should we jump into the comments now? Or do we want
Yes.
to talk about the emails? What Frederick also mentioned about the tone. I mean, at the end, this is under the CNCF and which falls down onto the code of conduct, which at the end can be summarized to be excellent to each other. And I think,
I mean, do we need to, Leo? I think we've already said, well, going forward, let's make sure we're professional and leave it at that. We don't need to berate people or point fingers.
Yeah, I have no interest in having arguments over this. Let's just move forward on the doc.
Okay. Maybe something which we can add to the agenda items to say this every time. Okay, let's move on to the comments. So do we want to jump into this one, Marlo? I added this. I think we briefly discussed this on Tuesday. So yesterday we had 2 separate meetings, as I said already. And this is just an introduction into the topic, which basically points out that we have environment and economic and social things all coming together. So, but we have a focus on the environment, as already been said by the title of the tag. So we have the environmental focus. But for my thinking, this was a good introduction to get a hang of sustainability itself. It's not just about carbon or like efficient energy use and so on, but it has a larger scope. Yeah, this was more or less the introduction.
Team, I have a question, please. I contribute to the Green Software Foundation as well. It's not clear to me what's the difference or the added value for this tag versus GSF offering, because both are talking about methodology for quantification, proposal, standard, and so on. I know I should probably know the answer, but it's not clear to me. I mean, in full transparency.
Marlo?
Yeah, so Green Software Foundation has very wonderful projects going on, but they're not cloud native specific. So what I would like to do is be able to consume some of the cloud, at least as far as my vision, I'm sure other people have other visions, to be able to consume the cloud native, or sorry, the Green Software Foundation pieces, and then build on it with different components. So if you go through, can we go to the goals or scope, Leo, section of the doc? So if we go through in scope, we are very specific at the very bottom to say collaborate with existing efforts, especially from a standpoint of cloud native. So it's basically to show up and offer guidance as far as what we're seeing within the cloud native landscape and get intake information. Is to collaborate with those groups, but cloud native is a very specific technology, right? It's not, and Green Software Foundation is more general, is my understanding.
It is. Cool. Thank you very much.
We see it like we open up the doors and building the bridges to those communities to bring them in and help them to let them in, because they're existing quite long. They have a huge contribution. But if you take a look into some of the most popular CNCF projects, they haven't yet found their way into these communities. And maybe this is something where we can also help.
Okay, thank you. So my understanding is that the standards, the concepts would be the same, but the implementation practices, here we focus on cloud native.
Correct, yeah. Yeah. Does anyone else have a viewpoint before we move on? Because I want to make sure that we're covering
Frederick?
everything.
Yeah, real quick, just from a working example on the tag security side of things, which I'm heavily involved in, we have engagements with a wide variety of external organizations, and those have proven to be very fruitful in those processes. So the part of the goal here should not just be about how do we gather and inform people within the CNCF or who are part of CNCF projects, but to help foster those relationships where we help make those introductions, we help provide that basis of what of knowledge, and then once we wire things together, we then step out of the way while still keeping visibility on what's going on to see not only what the outcomes are, but also to see how things are going. Do we need to jump in and help again for if something goes, if something falls off to the side? And so this has the possibility of playing the same role that security does, but for sustainability.
Good point. All right, moving back again. Are there any comments in general about the like the one that we just had, or any questions, open questions? Otherwise, I would move on with this discussion about this introduction. Judging from what Marlo said, I think I think this is required, or the introduction is not adequate, or?
So I feel if you scroll down a bit, so the section below that, the data centers, we have multiple people, including yourself, requesting we just move it. So data centers, through those first 3 bullets at the top of your screen on your right, we have a request to remove that. So and then if we start from the Paris Climate Accords, we have a fairly cohesive language here already, including the area where we have as this tag's goal is to advocate for, develop, support, and help evaluate environmental sustainability initiatives. The section that you had added is very general, and that diagram, I don't think fully encapsulates where our role is. So what I would like to do is go through the stuff you're adding there and figure out why, and then find a way to basically absorb it into the rest of the doc. So what in here are you trying to state that you don't think is covered elsewhere, I guess? And then as far as that diagram, what were you trying to convey so that we can maybe do something that is a good diagram?
Yeah. So yeah, so the idea was that we have under the CNCF already some initiatives, for example, with the user experience and contributor experience and so on, which at the end also use sustainability in their name, and it's obviously also related. And to just get the idea of how is this related, how does this also at the end come together to work on sustainability, was basically the idea of this introduction, that we have not just, for example, carbon efficient systems, but also the social aspects, or for example, the economic aspects with FinOps, that this is also working together. This was just the idea of have a wide introduction, as you already said. So it's a very general wide introduction. And then moving from this wide introduction to just keeping the focus on the environment aspect, that we want to increase efficiency, energy efficiency, and everything around this, which we describe basically in the sections after that.
Can I take a turn?
Yep.
Hi. So if you look at the other charters, they are written primarily to tell the TOC that here is what we are trying to do, right? So they are very brief, and so the things that this reads like, hey, like the beginning of a white paper or something like that, right? So if you can, so the things that you want to do together, right, that can go somewhere else. It doesn't need to be in the charter itself. The charter is essentially something that you take to the TOC and say, hey, TOC, this is what we all agreed on. So you do not need a lot of material like this in the charter itself. Like if you see the storage charter, right, you know, the area, since you know how big our storage ecosystem is in CNCF. But if you look at the charter, it is not that big, right? So so what I would advocate is, if you have supportive material, that'll be good. That can be developed outside of the charter itself, in various documents, and keep the charter itself very brief.
Okay. Okay. So from this, I get this could be a good beginning or some sort of beginning of a blog post, maybe. But I agree, keeping it brief. This does not add very a big like substantial. Does not add anything of that value to this charter document. So I think we are good to cut this off.
And the thing is, so this is essentially you're telling TOC, hey, this is what we want to do, and here is the things that we don't want to do, so that the TOC will agree with you saying, yes, this is a good set of things for you to go do, or the TOC might say, hey, that might just be too much for you to go. That might be a larger scope. Please reduce your scope. So this is for that kind of interaction with the TOC, and not necessarily an introduction to the tag to the whole world, right?
Okay, sounds good. Makes sense. There were quite a few hands up. Now they are down again. Frederick, is your hand up still from 5 minutes ago, or?
Oh, sorry. I'll lower it down.
All right. Any comments on this? Otherwise, I would remove my proposal. Marlo?
Also request that you remove this section below it, up to the Paris Climate Accords, unless someone else has opinions, because we have, I think that's more than we need. I think starting with the Paris Climate Accords, that paragraph well encapsulates, and then maybe while we go through the rest of it, we should look at things we can remove to Dim's point for brevity. Ariel, do you have something to say? I'm sorry.
You're muted, I think. You unmuted, but your mic wasn't on somehow.
I was just plus one-ing on your comment, Marlo.
Okay, sounds good.
Right,
I also see some comments in the side, which I'm kind of lost as to what that is. +1 to FAQ, so we can do frequently asked questions instead. I'm not sure what that looks like, so maybe we do that after the tag is formed.
Reference needed. I think there are, so if we remove this, okay. Sounds good, okay. There's one comment here from Ariel. I think this should be the first paragraph. Okay, this is now the first paragraph. It's clearly Okay, so this is kind of resolved now, I guess. Any other comments about the first paragraph? It looks like there aren't any. So increasing resources. There have been confusion about efficiency. Max?
Yep, Wojciech extended the question correctly.
Resource efficiency.
Yeah, hi. I thought it's about being more precise of what kind of resource we're talking about here, right?
So yeah. You mean like IT resource, or how should we specify this so that the resource is clearly software, or? Well, this is the question, right?
Yeah. Exactly. This is the question.
Ask the author.
Okay, I would understand it as software, so like IT resource.
IT is kind of broad.
Please, Wojciech.
Hi. I think IT is kind of broad, and it also includes hardware. So, can we be more specific about basically this is kind of connected to another point that I wanted to make about the responsibilities and deliverables. Guys, maybe that will influence this. Basically, I was looking at the Green Software Foundation. What is green software? Basically, article, or what is it? Article, yeah. And their action is pretty clear. And it says, our view is that there are only 3 actions that reduce the carbon emissions of software: using less physical resources, using less energy, and using energy more intelligently. And I guess that might kind of break things, but how about sticking to something similar, but inside the cloud native landscape? That will encompass a lot, I think, and we wouldn't have to be so specific, because we're kind of sticking here to compute power most of the time. But I think there's more to it when it comes to our sort of hemisphere, because we will be looking at how to smartly, being more smart in using compute power by creating software that actually basically wants to encompass lowering carbon emissions from the start, right? So I think that we're kind of looking in the HackMD, we're kind of looking at a very specific piece of the space we want to take care of. So I would kind of feel more comfortable if we kind of tried to omit power saving, etc., into basically focusing on how we can reduce carbon footprint of software, especially software that deals with the cloud, instead of focusing only on the energy. The energy is sort of used is the real deal, yeah, but we can try to reduce oh my god, I'm lacking for words here. We can try to reduce the carbon footprint of the power used. Oh my god, sorry. We can try to reduce the carbon footprint of the software by focusing first on how to smartly use less physical hardware, optimize software for this, and instead of just focusing on the state that is now. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. Maybe I'm just babbling, but I think we're being too specific about power saving and compute power saving, etc. I would kind of broaden it to basically the same way as the Green Software Foundation did. So to reduce the carbon emissions of software, of cloud native software, what have you, and by using less physical resources, using less energy, and using energy more intelligently. And here I will even, assume that there are ways of comprising data. There are ways of, I don't know, displaying dashboards on monitors or fonts that are actually using less energy than it's that they are currently using. There's this.
Are you looking for like words like
how the things are now instead of?
Are you thinking about energy transition? Or just
sorry?
transition? Are you thinking of it in a transition format? It's less about the efficiency of now, but it's the transition too.
Yeah, sort of, exactly. But we should focus on both points, right? So the thing is, I don't want to concentrate only on the state as it is now, because the state as it is now is obviously not the right state. Yeah, and sorry for messing it up, but
Lamin has his hand raised. Maybe he can help.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah. Sorry. So I still have a hard time to pronounce names. Just forgive me if I got your name wrong. I completely agree with you, and I do feel your passion towards this direction. But I was thinking this way that we operate within limited resources. So if we are setting a very lofty goals to do everything we want to do, in the end of the day, we may be able to do nothing. And on the second side is the CNCF. I used to work at the 6 storage. So we have plenty of storage technologies, but the CNCF operates in 6 storage is that we bring one technology at a time. So comprehensively, we can get all the functionalities over time. So I think that is the approach we can consider. So instead of focusing on the big goals of carbon energy transition or renewable energy, let's see what we can do in the first place. If we are able to do power saving, power optimization, that's great. That is also a major milestone. Maybe by that basis, we can build up our credibility to attack more issues environmentally. So at the point, I'm thinking that we have achieved 0 in terms of what CNCF can do in this cloud native software space. And if we are by the step of 1, 2, 3, we already achieved something tangible, then we are talking about the lofty goals. That's probably is more like pragmatic, in my opinion, because I'm just from a developer's perspective. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, you're certainly right. Okay.
Frederick?
Just like yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, one thing you could do as well that would help is when this is often used for companies that are starting up, you can separate out a concept of a vision and a mission. Like our vision is that we live in a highly sustainable world with constrained carbon emissions that bring us into a better future, or we can work out a nice wording for it. Our mission to do that is to reduce the energy usage and provide tools that developers and operators are able to use in order to more efficiently use their resources. And so I think that you can have both if you split them.
Okay, so I think we have this in the way that we kind of define here that we like the mission kind of. I mean, it does not. There's no section explicitly pointing out our mission or vision. I mean, at the end we have like projects described in scope, out of scope. So it's. I think that's a good idea. Okay, regarding this comment, how should we move on from this?
Just a proposal. I think you just mentioned what we may do. Basically, the Green Software Foundation has phrased how we can reduce software emissions. 3 points: hardware efficiency, software efficiency, and carbon-aware software, meaning it can do more or less depending on energy intensity. So we are trying to do the same thing, but apply it to cloud native, if I understand the scope right. And if I reuse the jargon, the wording of the sustainability people, we have 2 concepts, which is green IT, making infrastructure green, and the other one is IT for green, meaning using software to make intelligent decisions about, I don't know, retailing, logistics, etc. We're not in that scope. I understand we are doing green IT and basically implementing GSF proposal or patterns for cloud native.
Okay.
So I think we can reuse the 3: hardware, software, and then carbon awareness.
Then maybe there's another meeting needed. So maybe, I don't know if somebody would like to volunteer to rephrase this or propose a slightly different wording. So we can move on, because otherwise we will not make it far in this document. Would this be okay? Is there somebody who would like to volunteer to rephrase this particular section?
I can do asynchronous work.
Okay, sounds good.
I'm also happy to help where necessary. Are those hands still up, or are they just standing there forever?
My hands are getting tired of me lower.
You have very strong shoulders.
Okay, And there's quite a discussion around this one. We also seek to define, prevent, and identify patterns of inadvertent or greenwashing. Is this already resolved? There are less aggressive ways to perform similar effect. Are there any comments on this one?
So can I give background on it real quickly?
Sure.
So we don't want to go attacking projects because we feel they're greenwashing. We want to help them improve. So I'd like to rephrase, because I don't assume malice. I assume lack of knowledge, or maybe it's on our end, they're not greenwashing at all. But I'm assuming we're looking at the greenwashing section. Am I wrong?
Yeah. In the first proposal which we did, we actually defined this very simple by just giving one simple state of line and say, like, we don't support greenwashing, and everything else out of it is open to the tech and to the group and to work on it. Because I think when we give too much on it, it can be also like, so as Frederick has pointed out, like we are going like, it sounds like aggressively going into it. I know that it's not meant this way, to hunt something like this down. So maybe we can just really simplify it about us, what we do not support, to keep it as open as possible and see what we can make out of it.
I do like Frederick's proposal, though, of saying what action would we like to take, which is, let's say we want to come up with a way to score with no judgment. We would just say there's a process that we have that we will be using so people can compare. That seems reasonable without having to say we're going to, go after people. Essentially, we're just saying we will provide a framework to understand, how green you are.
Yeah, it'll still ruffle some feathers on occasion. Or let me rephrase, because that's maybe Americanism. That will upset some people on occasion, but it's controlled, and it's not meant out of any form of attack or similar. Because it's like, here's the model, we applied the model. If there's a deficiency in the model, help us update the model so that when we do the scoring the next time, then we see more accuracy in how it's applied. And so there's a process on the process at the end of the day. But I do like the concept of having something in there that says this particular organization is not meant to greenwash any project or similar, but I think it has to be kept very introspective. Like, we're only applying this to ourselves, and be very careful, especially with, I think Marlo hit it properly. We're going to get a lot more effectiveness, because my understanding of technical advisor groups is generally they don't have the ability to make an enforcing statement. Like, security can't go in and say every single group must do these set of actions. In fact, even the talk has limited capabilities to do that. So we're going to get a lot better results if we are very approachable. We're coming with information that people can learn and can apply. And so my recommendation would be for throughout the whole document, with maybe the exception of a rewritten portion, to say that this is not to greenwash other projects, would be to reword every section of greenwashing to something that is more, to something that's more positive. Like, we're not here to call people out. There are organizations that are designed to do that, and I'm not saying you don't participate with any of those, but this place is probably not the right spot.
+1 on that. Kara, then Marlo.
Yeah, I would say the same, +1 to that as well from an education standpoint. I do think, though, it's almost approaching it to educate the best practices or the benefits of of X to avoid greenwashing, and not, like, I think it needs to be acknowledged at least once. And then from there, it can, it's not that this group is trying to teach people to not greenwash, or that we're trying to go after people to not greenwash, but that we acknowledge that greenwashing is, I think we need to at least someplace acknowledge that greenwashing happens, but that's not our intent. And we are here to help educate, to make a positive effect, because and the other piece is it's not just from a defense or an attack or people thinking that it's an attack phase. It's also people are wanting to be on the offensive. Customers, foundations, projects, they don't want to be greenwashing, and they're are actively trying to not. So that education piece, if it would be important as well, just to be able to help with that offensive posturing as opposed to just always being defensive.
Hello.
Okay, we have some comments on the side that I think we should acknowledge. Ariel has some really nice wording in here that this providing feedback and tools along with promoting practices and standards will be useful. I do think that it's implicit that we are anti-greenwashing. We do not need to be explicit in this charter because it is a fairly negative piece. So can we just replace with Ariel, and hope I'm saying her name correctly, is Ariel's language in the comment. So instead of providing feedback and tools along with promoting practices and standards. Also to note, we have 8 minutes left, so we should probably stop here and have a discussion if we agree to that. Stop here and have a discussion on timelines and working.
So sounds good to me. Let's move on. Ariel, do you mind updating the section really quickly, and we can move on? Otherwise, I can also do it later. Okay, then there's one comment, depends on which scope, agree. William or Wilmin, Kara, Max, any comments on this? Otherwise.
I think we're out of time. Let's set another couple of meetings to make sure everyone's represented, please, and discuss where we're going as far as timelines.
All right. So looking at the entire document, I think maybe even 2 meetings are needed to go through everything.
You are very optimistic.
So maybe we can do the same as we did on Monday and Tuesday and arrange 2 separate meetings, and then also create a weekly Wednesday meeting. Maybe we can also set up a doodle for figuring out which time for the Wednesday, so like the official reoccurring meeting would be best. I can put this on my plate. Anybody would like to volunteer to set up the 2 separate meetings? How is everybody feeling about this week or next week?
Can I volunteer Wamin to handle that, because he's been pretty good about it in the past?
Oh yeah, I can set it up. So if you can just send your preferred time zone and format, I will just send invitations. And also, if you are interested in a meeting, I will just send you invitations after the startup meeting.
Davinian would like us to read the other charters. We need to do that. Please. Because they're much
I can
better than
read.
The one he linked. Yeah.
I'll read some.
Yeah, the ones he linked were much shorter. So maybe we should go through and make sure we encapsulate everything and then go through and see what we can cut. That's often how I write.
Sounds good to me. Nice homework. So setting up the weekly meeting, I think we need to contact Amy. Max, do you know more? Just
nope. I can set it up this way.
Okay. Then I can also reach out to Amy and request if we can set this up every week, and then I can send out a doodle to adjust it later. So for now we can keep the time zone, the time slot, which we have already, and then maybe adjust in a week or 2 after we have enough feedback. I would, if everybody is fine with this approach. And I think then we have 2 separate meetings, the weekly one enough time to discuss everything on this document? And are there any last comments? Otherwise, probably most of you folks. Timeline.
So
Right.
can I make a suggestion, or would someone else like to chime in?
Go ahead.
Okay, we're aiming for mid-August. Because people have been in and out of vacations, I think we should actually have another working meeting, like a couple of meetings next week and then one the following. Close the HackMD after the 15th, do a solidification on the 17th. So have 2 next week and 1 the following week, and then close the 5th, like the last one be the 15th, and then on the 17th, August 17th, have the stock ready to go. So, you know, give a couple of days for people to review. Does that make sense, or is that too aggressive?
Sounds good to me.
I think it makes sense. Let's see that we can land the states.
So just to add to the timeline, we're going to set up the criteria for as different stage, as what stage, what's how big change can be, and what's our review process. So I'm okay to have like a meeting, in-person meeting reviews. But if there's any other better ways to reviews, we should also do that.
Yeah, so my request is that people put in comments either in the doc like we've done in the past, or on the side. If someone needs to use a PR, they can do that, and we can check and keep those in scope. Is that okay?
Yeah, good to me.
Does anyone not like that plan?
Silence is good.
Not always, but it's
Silence
good.
agreement.
We're gonna assume.
Awesome. Anything else? Or are we good? Good to go to the next meeting, probably. All right.
Thank you, Leo, for being our scribe.
No problem. Wait. And who takes care of the recordings? So they're getting also uploaded to YouTube or some other platform?
Send it to me. I put in a temporary sustainability thing. When I talk to Amy, we can't do something officially until we're a tag. So for the moment, we'll use this channel. I am very sorry. I didn't have another place to put it. And then at the end, we can swap. Is that okay? Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you for taking care of this. I think somebody else started the recording, so I don't have the recording on my machine.
That's automatically.
Automatically. Okay.
Where is it? Because we need to upload it. I can't upload if I don't have access.
I have no idea. It's end up somewhere in the Zoom accounts, which we do not have access to.
I'll go message Amy and see if she knows. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think whoever the host is probably is getting a copy. I don't know if somebody.
We don't have a host key. Was already requested, but we don't have a host key.
It might be Jared. I'll access Amy. She'll know. Thank you.
Awesome.